It reads, "Herein lies the biggest obstacle to the upstarts of Fortaleza." The BRICS countries were called the upstarts of Fortaleza. Other than being big and developing, the reason why economists at Goldman Sachs have an investment bank coined the term in 2001, the BRICS have little in common. The Chinese economy is 28 times the size of South Africa's, not part of Goldman Sachs' original grouping. Income per person in India is 1/10 of Russia. True, all lack infrastructure, but lively democracies in 3 of them, and about erecting differently to authoritarian regime in Russia and China, etc. Such disparities will make it hard to agree on even basic principles like whom, other than themselves, to lend money, on what terms, or what counts as sustainable development, etc., etc. And then it continues, it took the Bretton Woods institutions decades to sort out, all from the satisfactory to the stage where they are. As you know, Bretton Woods 1945 was the starting point of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. It took them several years to come to a shape. But the truth is that we have all the knowledge available. If today somebody is manufacturing a car, he does not have to invent the wheel all over again because the wheel is already there. So the Bretton Woods experience is available to all of us, and so after about 3 or 4 years of deliberations, this concept of the new development bank materialized. And what is more important is that, look, despite when it eventually materialized, the Economist wrote again, setting up rival to IMF and World Bank is easier than running them. But the obituary was written a little too early, as the events have shown. That's what I am going to tell you now. A renowned banker from India, by name Mr. K.V. Kamath, was appointed as the president of the bank on May 11, 2015. In March 2016, about 100 plus employees were employed, and in 2016, the first set of $811 million of loan was sanctioned, all on the sectors like renewable energy, and one of the emphasis being to environmental concern, etc., etc. And Mr. Kamath declared that the other financial institutions are NDB's partners, not rivals. In July 2016, a memorandum of understanding has been entered into with the Asian Development Bank, a giant in the region of more than 30 years standing. And they have agreed to cooperate on very many matters. Asian Infrastructure Bank, AIIB, where China is the major say, though born almost simultaneously, regards NDB as a sister. And that is a big strength as far as the new development bank is concerned. The World Bank is not hostile. It has also expressed its friendly gestures And I must say that Mr. Kamath and his team have done very well so far. You know, BRICS is a loosely knit organization of seemingly disparate states. It is primarily concerned with the realization that they constitute about 50% of the world's population and about 40% of the area. They realized that regimes like World Bank and International Monetary Fund, as we hear them, they not only lend money, but complaint is that they impose conditions like interfering with the political setup of the country, so that the loan utilization is according to their theme. This is the complaint. In any case, these BRICS countries felt it, and they said, look, even in a smaller scale, we must have something. And that is how NDB was born, and so far it has done very well. As you all know, the functions of the bank is that, look, in a country may require about $500 million for a project, but no single lender can lend it. And it will be possible only through the mechanism of a bank, where the bank collects money. For an NDB, for example, has already floated bonds in China, and they are likely to float it elsewhere. And in South Africa, they are about to establish a branch. And as the time goes on, I am sure that NDB has already shown the signs of being really becoming a very healthy child and doing the assured promises. Now the connected activities, for example, the dispute resolution, which has been mentioned all through, they will have a lot to do with the bank, because tying up the bank's activities with the dispute resolution centers would probably solve the banker-customer, whatever the problems that may arise. And the lawyers have a lot to do in this connection, either collectively or individually. For example, we will devise the methods of documentation for these banks. Need not follow because even the arbitration and other procedural requirements should be consistent with the borrower country's situation. Because suppose India is a borrower, the site of arbitration, we can put it as India, and naturally it will be the applicable laws, etc., will be defined. Similarly, in all other countries, the result will be that out of the misery of some borrower or of the bank, the rest of the world need not make any gain. We can settle them among ourselves. This is just a beginning. We have a lot of travel to make, and as I said, we have the experience of the rest of the world before us. We don't have to undergo the same trials and errors which they have done. We can learn from them, and that's what we did when we envisaged BRICS Bank and the Contingency Reserve Fund as a counterpart of IMF. So friends, this is some subject which probably year after year, whenever BRICS meets, we can come up with an up-to-date version as what has happened in between and what more or changes can be put. And as we said, even for an honest transaction like banking, lawyers are needed. So there lies our position. Thank you. go up to 5 o'clock? No.
Next so many minutes, sir. Sir, where is the headquarters of BRICS?
Shanghai. Shanghai is the headquarters, and South Africa, we are about to open a branch.
Thank you, Mr. Bhatt. You brought money so close to us that each one of us started thinking of how we are going to borrow from this new development bank. I always thought music had no language, but you taught us a new lesson today that money has no language. And I think, Mr. Bhatt, you lost sight of an article when this economist brought out an article. A Punjabi Gurmukhi newspaper from Ludhiana, if I'm not wrong, brought out a small note and said, "Don't worry, stray dogs bark, let them bark. We will continue with our mission." That should be the spirit. The United Kingdom could never have said, when they came to India, they always said we were the golden bird of the East. And therefore now we have 4 more brothers with us. So we have actually become platinum now. So don't worry about that part. It is always possible, sir, that you'll find, wherever you'll find cooperation coming up, wherever you're finding emerging power coming up, wherever you find 5 people wanting to overcome all its disadvantages apart, take all advantages together and stand up as an emerging power, there'll be many people who will be jealous of us. Don't worry about their jealousy. We will keep our shoulders up and go ahead with our goals. Why only one development bank? If necessity arises, we'll bring another one. Don't worry about it. Lawyers will have a lot of work to do. I'm so happy to know, after my friend in the last session told us we have 1,600 law schools, so I better provide some for my youngsters here. I must have some more work for them. And therefore, keeping that in mind, it's better that we have more work, sir. Thank you so much for updating us on everything that we needed to learn. In fact, I intend to propose to the Secretariat of the BRICS that all these statistics that come up, we must bring probably a newsletter or something so that we update our members with respect to the developments in all the countries and publish all that we have said in all these 3 days so that people are able to remember what we talked and then carry this for the next BRICS meeting and see how much development we have done. I don't think I can rely only on that. Each one of us who's participating in these summits is a contributor to the cause that we all stand by together. And therefore, he must be apprised, or he or she must be apprised of it. That should be the first test of transparency that we are looking at. Thank you so much. We have now the Vice Chairman of Shanghai Council for Promotion of International Trade, who speaks on prospect of cooperation in arbitration among BRICS. Mr. Bhatt left at arbitration, where Mr. Jing Gang is going to start. May I request you, sir, to please come on the dais.
朋友们，各位好！非常荣幸，我能够在美丽的新德里，也是具有悠久历史的新德里，跟我们的同行一起交流。在新德里的短短的2天之内，我们见证了新德里的美丽，同时也见证了我们在印度的同行们的热情和好客。借此机会，我们一并表示感谢。 同时，也感谢会议的组织者，给我一个特别的机会，让我做一个特别的发言。在来出席这次会议之前，我准备了一个讲稿，但是到了会议之后，这2天的会议的气氛，使我觉得我所要讲的讲稿里准备的一半东西，可以把它扔掉了，因为 本次会议的气氛给了我非常大的鼓舞，因为我想说在这里做的 发言的话，是想对金砖国家的争议解决的仲裁合作做说客。第2届金砖法律论坛在上海召开，同时我们也成立了上海国际仲裁争议国际争议解决中心上海中心，是第1家成立的争议解决中心。一个人独行是孤独的，所以我们很希望金砖国家的其他国家都尽快的成立争议解决中心。昨天到今天的会议，昨天晚上到今天的会议，使我感到一个又一个的惊喜。第一个惊喜是我们印度的同行给予我们的，印度也成立了争议解决中心新德里中心。同时，与其他2届金砖国家法律论坛所不同的是，在第3届金砖国家法律论坛过程当中，从昨天晚上的开幕典礼到今天早上的主席的发言，越来越多的听到我们的专家们、我们的法律精英人士不断的谈到争议解决。第3是今天中午的委员会，我们非常高兴的听到金砖国家除了印度设立了争议解决中心德里中心之外，其他的几个国家都达成了不同程度的共识，都在积极的筹备建立金砖国家的争议解决中心。所以我说，我准备的要说明成立争议解决中心重要性、必要性，所有这些的套话通通是没有用了，可以扔掉了。但是我在这里必须要表明的是，除了这些，在我们金砖国家设立的过程当中，随着经济的发展和争议的增多，我们必须要有一个自己的争议解决的机制之外，除了这些必要性之外，确实我们可以看到各个国家，特别是金砖国家的争议解决机构在仲裁程序、仲裁规则有日益的趋同，这就是我们设立争议解决中心的另外一个良好的基础。众所周知，金砖国家的民事诉讼制度存在着比较大的差异。由于纽约公约的作用和联合国国际贸易委员会的努力，金砖各国的仲裁立法及众多的国际仲裁机构的仲裁规则出现了一种趋同的趋势。在仲裁的基本理念、程序设计、仲裁执行各方面都逐渐的在趋同。值得注意的是，金砖国家的各国都在最大程度上借鉴了联合国国际贸易法委员会国际商事仲裁示范规范的以它为蓝本，制定了本国的国际商事仲裁制度。从立法层面上来看，巴西、俄罗斯及印度3个国家的仲裁立法和仲裁制度的设计比较完善，紧跟着仲裁发展的最新潮流。具体来说，93年俄罗斯以示范法为蓝本，制定了俄罗斯联邦国际仲裁商事仲裁法，规范了示范法为蓝本的俄罗斯国际商事仲裁法同时规范了俄罗斯的国际商事仲裁制度。巴西也于1996年制定了巴西仲裁法，作为在巴西进行的国内仲裁和国际仲裁的准据法，其立法体例都源自于联合国国际示范法。同年，印度也以示范法为蓝本，制定了印度仲裁和调解法。非常巧合的是，2015年3个国家均对前述的仲裁立法进行了修改， 根据实践的发展需要，推出了仲裁法的修订案。南非国家法律改革委员会也于1997年推出了关于国际仲裁的立法草案，建议以示范法为蓝本，构建本国的国际仲裁法律制度。相应的，中国于1994年制定了仲裁法，并根据司法实践，在司法实践当中遇到的有关问题，出台了很多的司法解释。最高人民法院依就下级法院呈报的有关案例，以答复的形式作出了回应。尽管实施了20余年的中国仲裁法本身与联合国国际贸易法委员会国际商事仲裁示范法不甚相同，但不用质疑的是，包括上海国际仲裁中心在内的诸多中国仲裁机构